Hey, if you've been running one of these small gasoline or diesel heaters for a long time, consistently, you're probably going to be surprised how much carbon buildup there is inside the heater, even if the heater seems to be running okay. I was really surprised. I took this apart after a few years of using it, and yeah, I found a whole bunch of carbon inside there that I didn't realize existed, and was able to clean it up. But the only way you can really get to those areas to clean it up is to actually disassemble the heater itself. So I'm going to show you how that goes. I'll show you what I did to clean it out, and I'll show you the pictures of what mine looked like the first time I cleaned it out. And there's just a lot of carbon buildup in there. But this is a Webasto. It's a German-made heater. Espar is also another German-made, but they all pretty much share the same design. You know, the Chinese versions of these are all pretty much similar, even though there might be some different variations in the type of screw heads and stuff you might need. But for the most part, what we see here is going to be fairly standard across all the different models. And you can get a lot of replacement parts for these, and there's no reason why you can't keep your heater running for a long, long time. So let's take this apart, and I'll show you what I did to get it cleaned out. Just going to take a screwdriver here, remove it. Okay, so I got this cap off, and I don't have one on the back. But for most of these heaters, that's what's keeping the sides together. So once I have that off, I can remove, and this one, everything just kind of snaps together. So I can push on this, and then I can open this area, which is on mine where all the electronics get connected. And then from here, I can start taking it apart. And it's just pressing on some of these plastic pieces to remove these little snaps and stuff that hold it together. There you go. The front part, you can see here's my fan. This one's really well put together, but yeah, you can see this just comes off like this. Set this stuff aside, and the bottom piece should just slide right off here, off the heater. Okay, with the case off, you can see the primary components of the heater. Now at the top here, we've got our fan assembly, and you'll have some kind of a plastic enclosure that has all the electronics and the controls and stuff, and this one wraps around the fan module. Now we're gonna have to remove all this stuff, but what we really want to do is get to this area down here, which is where the heat exchanger is. You can see the exhaust port is actually right here, so the exhaust that's coming out of here comes out there. So that's where all the soot that you might see come out the pipe originates from. So let's take off this this control module and then the fan module, and then we'll go from there. For the Webasto here, it uses Torx screws, so it's got the little star Torx bit on the end. I don't know if you can see that. Here's one that's like from a from a pack of deck screws. This is a T25, so this is going to be the larger ones that I'm going to use for these out here. But you can see that I can't get to some of them because this other stuff is in the way. Now what I recommend before you start unplugging things for the electronics is to just take a picture of it with your phone, so you know exactly how everything comes back together when you need to reassemble it. For this one, the plugs are only going to go into one spot, so it makes it a little easier that way. But I'm going to have to unplug all this stuff and then remove the fan module. So I'm just going to remove the plugs for these different pieces. There you go. These are weatherproof on this one, so they're pretty clean. Just going to remove them. These have little notches in here that allow them to only slide into one of these spots. I'm going to have to remove this fan at the top. And I think I can just slide it off. Be very careful with it. There you go. This came off pretty easy. Now I can get to this little Torx screw that's right there. Now let's see what size that is. So that might be a T15. There you go. So this is keeping the electronics on there. Just gonna organize these little screws. There's one there. There's one here. And then there's one on this side here. Where is it? Right there. And that's it. So this just kind of wraps around the motor like that. And then it just got a couple hooks here holding wires. And this comes off. So there's our electronic control. All the electronic controls are in here. And now with that gone, we can remove the fan, the whole fan assembly itself. What we'll find when we take this off is there's another fan on the inside, which actually pulls the combustion air through. So for this fan assembly, there's 4 or 5 of these screws, and these are the larger T25 screws. So I'm going to use this bit here. Again, for your heater, it might have these Torx screws, or it might have like hex head screws, which you'll need the some Allen style wrenches of the appropriate size. Okay, now we get to this one here. It looks like there's a grounding wire connected to this one, so I'm gonna remove that as well when we take this screw out. Make sure, take it off of here. I like to organize everything in this little magnetic tray just so I don't lose any screws, and it makes it easier to put it all back together. All right, there we go. So we got those 5 out. Now we should be able to just remove this whole thing. Okay, so I've got this intake coming in here. So this is the wire for the fuel pump itself. So we'll remove that. And one thing that we'll notice here, there's a metal gasket here on the bottom. So we want to be careful with that. In most cases, this probably is fine to just leave there if it's in good shape. Try not to break it. But you can buy replacement sets that have the replacement gaskets as well. So it's a good idea to replace them if you can find a replacement. I know for this heater, these are readily available, and for most heaters, you can usually find aftermarket kits that have all the gaskets and everything that you'll need, including a glow plug, which I'll show you where that is. Now, if we look at this fan assembly that we removed, we've got the fan on the top that pulls the air across the heater, and this also has another fan on the bottom which actually sits inside the heater, and that's what's pulling the combustion air into the combustion chamber. It just sucks it in. They both spin at the same time, like that. So 2 fans on one motor, so it's kind of cool. This sits on the inside of the heater. And I'm going to remove the gasket here that's on the top. We'll set that aside as well. Now we can see the inside where the burn chamber is as well, and we can see where our fuel comes here from the fuel pump through this fuel line here, and it goes into the burn chamber. I believe this yellow wire is what connects to the glow plug, and you can see these brown wires here go to this little sensor, I believe here, which I'm going to guess, I think this is a flame sensor, so it's going to detect whether there actually is a flame, so to tell you whether it's actually been ignited or not. All right, so I'm going to take some smaller torque screws out here. There's like 4 of them holding this whole thing together. Okay. All right. So this unit has a little cover here to protect the wires. I'm going to set that aside. Put that in here. On this Webasto unit, it's got this little rubber piece that sits in the side here, which holds everything down. And I also have these rubber grommets that are sealing up where these wires come in to the heater. So I need to pop those out, or pop them in. And take a screwdriver and just kind of compress those a little bit. Just be careful. And then I should be able to pull them in. Do the same thing with the yellow one. Okay. And once I have those in there, I should be able to lift this out by pulling on the fuel line here. Okay. Now this may be a little stuck at sometimes, so you might need a little screwdriver, a little pliers to help you out. There are 2 parts to this. I'm going to get this out. You might need to separate them in order to get this out without having to bend things too much. So there we go. So I've split it apart. Now I can remove the top part of the burn chamber because it's smaller. Let's see if I can do this. Get down there. Okay, there we go. All right. There we go. We've got the burn chamber here, and this is the larger piece of it. So this is a 2-part component. So this burn chamber here, which is where all the magic happens, sits inside this burn chamber here, and then this is where everything goes out into the heat exchanger. So we'll set this down here, and there's also another gasket inside here that seals up the burn chamber from the rest of the unit. And here's this gasket here. So when you order a set of gaskets, you're going to get both of these. You're going to get these 2 gaskets as part of the kit, and it may also come with a what you call it, a glow plug, which, gosh, these stick together really well, and you got to separate them again. Now the glow plug is right here, and I'll show you how to remove that. Okay. So the majority of the soot is going to be in this area here. So when I took this apart originally, this whole thing was full of soot, and even though periodically I would take an air compressor to it and blow it in here, and I got some soot out, I thought, hey, I think I might have gotten it all out. Not true. All right, now with everything disassembled, you can just basically get to cleaning. Now this is going to be a pretty dirty job, so you might want to take some of these things and actually put them in a little tub, and that might keep a lot of the nastiness contained. But the main things you want to focus on here are the burn chamber components. Like I said, there's 2 pieces to it, and they're just going to be dirty and covered in soot and exhaust. So I used just a brush, like a little brush like this. I just started cleaning with some carburetor cleaner. And you really want to take a look at the inside of the burn chamber here. So this is where all the flame actually is, and you might be able to clean a lot of this area up. Now there's this mesh on the bottom of the burn chamber here. I'll show you over here. And you can see it down here. You can't really tell, but that's where the fuel gets pumped in, and once it's ignited, it just continues to burn. And I think what this here, that little post sticking up there, is a little flame sensor. So I think that's what detects that there's a flame, and it essentially will shut down the unit if there is no flame. So that's just a flame sensor. I believe it's hooked to this brown wire. Now I just took a sharp poker thing and just started chipping away at some of the gunk that was on the sides and in that in the holes of this little mesh area. Clean it up as much as possible. Squirt some carburetor cleaner in there if that helps, and just try to get the whole thing cleaned out as best as you can. You can also get replacements for this whole burn chamber, so if you prefer to go with a new one, that's one way to do it. But the bulk of the soot is actually going to be inside the heat exchanger here. Mine was pretty gnarly. I thought it was going to be somewhat clean because it seems to burn pretty clean, but no, I was wrong. And you can see from the picture here that there was a lot of buildup there that you just can't blow out through this hole with an air compressor. So I started by just getting rid of the big chunks using a brush, and then wiped it down, sprayed it down as best I could, but I really couldn't get it completely clean to the level I wanted to. So what I finally did was mix up a little solution of baking soda and vinegar, and just putting it in there and letting it do its thing, and then using the brush again to really clean it out. And that's what ultimately got it to the state it's in now, which is pretty clean. I think it's pretty much as clean as I'm going to be able to get it. Now another thing to look at is the glow plug, which goes into the burn chamber here. You can see it sticking out right there, and that's a common piece that you can just replace. You can also take it apart and see if it's actually needing to be replaced, because it may not be. And if there's stuff on there, you could probably just scrape it off. I think it's just ceramic or something. The glow plug itself is actually just held in place with this little hex screw that's on the other side here, and it just holds it down, and you can just take one of these, this little tiny one. I think it's like maybe like a 2 millimeter or 3 millimeter, small. Just loosen that up. It's like a set screw. You don't have to remove it all the way, and then you can just slide. Once you get the wires out of the way, there you go. Just slide that right out like that, and it comes out. So you can inspect it to see if it's actually got stuff on it that might prevent it from working, as well as it could. But one thing you can also do is just, if it's got some stuff on there, just kind of scrape it off with a knife or some sandpaper or file or something like that, just to clean it up. Now mine was pretty clean, so I didn't really have to do much to it. And then you just put it back like that, get it set in place, and then tighten down that set screw here on this side. Just gonna stick it in there like that, tighten it down. Pretty easy. Okay. Now once everything's cleaned up to your satisfaction, it's just a process of reassembling everything and putting everything back together. So the first thing we'll do is we'll start with our gasket that goes inside the burn chamber here. Kind of isolates it from the rest. Set it in there. Now the bottom part of the burn chamber goes in next, and it's shaped a certain way, so it only goes in one way. Make sure everything gets aligned here. So you can see these screw holes get aligned with the gasket. We can put in the top part of the burn chamber. You want to put the bottom in first because you won't be able to get them both in together, because the fuel line here has to be aligned with this opening. There we go. That goes in like this, and on this Webasto unit, it's got this nice little rubber piece that lines everything up. Just push that down, and everything pops into place. Now we want to push these cable connections back through these holes here in this unit, and then push in those grommets. Get this whole compartment all sealed up. Make sure it's all sealed up good. Okay. Now we can start putting stuff back together. I've got this piece that goes over the wires there, and then once everything's lined up, we can start putting our screws back into place. Okay, you want these nice and snug, but not too tight. Yeah. When you remove it, just kind of make note of how tight they were to remove, and then that's kind of how snug you want them put back together. Now the next step is to put the fan assembly on the top, and we've got a gasket for that, and it's going to line up just like that. Luckily we've got two holes here, so make sure this is all nice and snug and flush. You line up the gasket here like that, and then the fan assembly is going to go on top. Now the cord for the fuel pump goes through the hole like that, and then this gets perfectly aligned. Make sure you got all the gasket and everything lined up just right before you start shoving screws down there. There we go. And we're good. 1, 2, it's going to be 5, 3, 4, 5. And those are going to be the larger T25, I think is what this one is. Just get them started. Make sure they're going in there nicely. If you get stuck on one, just back it out a little bit and try again. Yeah, if it gets a little snug, make sure it's started all the way, and then it should continue. There we go. Oh shoot, I forgot to put the grounding. I forgot to put the grounding one there. Let's redo that one real quick. All right. Let's put this control module back. It slides over the top like that. This one's not so critical. Just keep it snug. No gasket or anything here. Okay, now I'll plug all my wires in, and we can put the fan back. All right, well this heater is good to go and ready to be fired back up, but I don't plan on reinstalling it in the RV because I've already replaced it with a velvet heater that is a little bit larger, and it's got some cool new features that I'm really excited about, like this automatic elevation adjustment to the fuel mix and a bunch of other stuff. So make sure you go watch this video if you're interested in seeing that whole install, as well as some other diesel heater videos and installations that that you might find interesting, including this heater that's running in the shop. So go check those things out, and hope this helped you out, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.